I'd like to bring this session to order at 5:33 on 6/25/2019. Deborah, can we have roll call?
Ms. Martinez? Here. Mr. Moreno?
He's not here. I know he was somewhere in Cuba.
Okay. Mrs. Quintana?
Here.
Mr. Rolla?
Here.
Mr. Thomas?
Here.
I'd like to have a motion to go into exec session.
Madam Chair, I move that we go to executive session under CRS 24-6-4024B, conference with the attorney for the purpose of receiving legal advice on purpose of legal questions.
I second.
Roll call.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
excuse me for interrupting. Point of order. I believe you have noticed a couple other, you have a real estate as well.
Yes.
I suggest that you include that in the
All of
scope
them?
of your motion.
All three? All three?
Give him.
Well, I know you definitely need real estate.
Okay. Also, CRS 24-4024A, the purchase, acquisition, lease, transfer, sale of any real, personal, or other property interest. Also, CRS 24-6-424F, personal matters, except if the employee who is the subject of the session has requested an open meeting.
May I have roll call? Deborah?
Ms. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno? Mrs. Quintana?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
And we will be back. I'd like to bring this board meeting to order at 7:04. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It's just a panic. Deborah, can I have roll call?
Ms. Martinez?
Here.
Mr. Moreno?
Here.
Mrs. Quintana?
Here.
Mr. Rolla?
Here.
Mr. Thomas?
Here.
I'd like to have a motion for the approval of the agenda.
Madam Chair, I move for the approval of the agenda as presented.
May I have a second?
Madam Chair, I second the agenda as presented.
Any discussion? Seeing none. Deborah, roll call.
Ms. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mrs. Quintana?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
And do we don't have any audience comments? Seeing none. Moving on to routine items. 1.0, personnel actions. 1.1, may I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move for the approval of item 1.1, personnel actions.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, discussion, I'm sorry. Go.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just real quick, on this item, and I know the previous, I guess,
In-person.
issues with this have been resolved, which I'm thankful for. I just want to reiterate how important it is when the board is acting on these employment-related matters that they be coded correctly and that they be presented to the board for the reasons that the employee has demonstrated. I'm glad we were able to catch the mistake with this one instance, but I would hope that that doesn't happen again in the future.
Deborah, roll call?
Ms. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mrs. Quintana?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Moving on to business, 1.1, superintendent's recommendation, start time change for elementary schools. May I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move for the approval of item 1.1 under business.
May I have a second?
Madam Chair, I second item 1.1.
Discussion?
I just had a question. What will these 10 minutes be used for?
Thank you, board members. Yes, the 10 minutes is actually to allow us more time to get to the middle school. So a few years ago, we changed our tier structure. It used to be high school, middle school, elementary. And the elementary school takes a little bit longer for us to get them to school, to give them a little bit more attention. So when we changed about a year ago, when they wanted to switch the tiers and then the times to give Adams City High School a later start, they decreased the amount of time that we have in between our tiers. So what we found out going through this year is that the elementary, we need a little bit more time for the middle schools to get them to school, because we were dropping off so late, not so late, but when the time crunched like that, we just didn't have enough time. So we're getting there about 5 minutes late. So this 10 minutes is going to allow for us to be able to absorb that.
And will the individual schools choose what to do with those 10 minutes, or?
That part of instruction, I believe it's going to be in instruction time, is what I was told.
That's when school will start, so instead of starting at 8:30, school will start at 8:20, so that kids can get to Adams City, so the buses can get to Adams City Middle School on time to drop off kids. We were losing about 15 to 20 minutes for instruction at Adams City Middle School, and so we had to move up the time, and that's what we came up with when we worked with Al.
So, am I correct then? It's really not, it's just to make sure that they're on time for when school does start.
Yes.
I understand that. I'm just wondering what the schools, like, who would determine what those extra 10 minutes would be used at within the school district?
The principals will. So they were unanimous on making a decision around starting at 8:20, so they'll just start regular school at 8:20 in the morning.
So it'll be 10 minutes additional instruction time?
Yes.
But basically in the morning, 8:30, when the kids get there, if I'm correct, it's been a while, they go in for breakfast. So it does allow them enough
So
time to eat
Yeah,
there.
there could be some breakfast
their
time in there,
meals,
but they'll
yeah.
start instruction at that time.
I was just wondering because I know that lunch schedules right now are quite small, like they only have like 15 minutes to eat, and it varies depending on schools. It could be anywhere between 15 and 20. And so I was just wondering if those 10 minutes could be allocated so that they do get the 20 minutes for recess and the 20 minutes for lunch, instead of having to take 10 minutes away from recess to add it to the 5 minutes from recess to add it to the 5 minutes of lunch, an extended lunch, so.
So the principals have made some adjustments on their schedules for this year so that they can allow the time for recess time at lunch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Roll call, Deborah?
Mrs. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mrs. Quintana?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Moving on to 1.2, Superintendent's recommendation, approval to use general funds for food and beverages. May I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move for the approval of item 1.2.
May I have a second?
Second?
Discussion? Seeing none, roll call, Deborah?
Ms. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mrs. Quintana?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Moving on to 1.3, Superintendent's recommendation, approval for one TAP conversion from TOSA to MTSS coordinator. May I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move for the approval of item 1.3.
May I have a second?
Second?
Discussion? Seeing none, roll call, Deborah?
Ms. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mrs. Quintana?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Moving on to 1.4, Superintendent's recommendation, approval for TAP increase for Adult Learning Center. May I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move for the approval of item 1.4.
May I have a second?
Second the approval of 1.4.
Discussion?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have a number of questions about this specific item. I'm not sure who can speak to it. But I'm just curious, so it looks like, how this operated previously is we had 3 part-time supplemental instructors that will now be 1 full-time instructor. I'm just wondering how that will affect the diversity of offerings. Because I imagine with 3 part-time folks, you could offer, I would imagine specialize in different areas, and they could probably offer, different courses in different subjects. How will that be affected by replacing it with 1 person?
Well, this program is funded 100% by a federal workforce development grant, and so we have some limitations on the types of courses we're allowed to offer. So primarily, we offer English language acquisition classes, 4 different levels. We also offered a lower level math and a higher level math and a lower level language arts and a higher level language arts. We've recently started also adding career pathways classes. So we developed with Chris Duran and some CTE instructors. We are working on some different things, but one we worked on was culinary pathways. We also have offered 2 cohorts of a paraprofessional pathway class. So we do focus on basic math, reading and writing skills within those career areas and job preparation. And the reason for, so right now I have, my staffing changes and I am hiring almost year round. I have positions posted all the time because we register 5 times a year. So as we get students, I have to hire someone or adjust. And there are a lot of part-time instructors, but there are 8 returning instructors for next year, and there are 5 full-time, which is 32 hours a week for instructors. And then right now I have 3 part-time instructors returning, but I have over 80 hours of instruction to fill. So even if I convert a few part-time positions to 1 full-time, I'm still going to hire quite a large number of part-time instructors.
So in your estimation, programming won't suffer through this conversion?
It's actually expanding. Since I came here, we've expanded from about 250 to 300 learners served to over 600.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
One more question. And right now, those 3 positions, are they filled right now?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
Guess that's it.
Thank you.
Deborah, may I have roll call?
Ms. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mrs. Quintana?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Moving on to 1.5, Superintendent's Recommendation, Approval of Contract Vendors per Policy DJ. May I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move for the approval of item 1.5.
May I have a second?
One second.
Discussion?
Yes, I have a question, Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Thomas.
Somebody, these contracts that we looking at, are they starting July the 1st? These contracts?
Yeah, that should be the list that would start July 1st.
And have Mr. Farrell looked at any of these contracts that starts July 1st?
He may have looked at some of them, and some of them may be just on the same contract that's been used in the year before. So if we're just rolling it forward, we wouldn't be sending it back to Mr. Farrell again.
So how do we know we want to use this same company again? Maybe the company folded. How do we know we sending a check to somewhere that might not even be available?
Any department that would be trying to contract those services is still, working with that company again to try to make sure that, all of those particulars are still the same as the year before.
So we really, they don't know though, right?
They should know.
They should know. Because I'm looking at some that you brought to us, if I'm not mistaken, and asked for extra money, like 15,000 here and there and 10,000 extra, if I'm not mistaken. So shouldn't we, as a district, go out to these companies to see if it's of 2 or 3% Are we negotiating to go down on these contracts and see if the district is saving money? Instead of we just saying, okay, since we didn't pay, say, Smith Agency Serenity $90,000, how we know we can't get it for $80,000, $75,000 instead of just $90,000? Joshua School, $90,000. How come we can't negotiate something for the district? Just say we just gonna end up just paying you $90,000 without just saying, reaching out to them. Brighton 27J, $27,000. How come we not going to 27J saying we both school districts? How come we can't work with each other? University of Denver, all these different schools on here. I mean, all these different vendors. We just automatically saying, since we paid you this 1 year, we just gonna automatically vote and just give you the same amount without the finance putting any legwork in there to find out, have the price change, have they lowered the price? Is the same person still in their bid in finance where they work at? I'm not just understanding why we just don't agree to this amount without even putting any legwork in to see if it had changed.
So this list is a projection of what we expect that cost to be for next year. And this wouldn't necessarily be the amount that we're contracting at. And for any one of the vendors on this list, we should still be meeting our same procurement policies that we would regularly meet regarding RFPs or quoting.
So the cost of living, what, 2-3%? Is that what you added from last year's contract for this? From last year's contract, the cost of living to add to this contract to make it say Tennessee Center for Children, it's $100,000. So last year's contract was what, $97,000, $190,000? I'm just curious. For it to be an even $100,000, then I believe we came back to us and we approved $10,000 or $15,000 at the end of the school year. So
I don't think that we added a CPI price adjustment to this. I think it was a projection based on the expected contract amount, and there are, other factors that would come into that, and those projections have not always come from finance. In some cases, they've come from those departments, when they were themselves looking at what the cost they expected to need to cover with the contract is. So that might be the number of students that we're sending to out of district for, say, SPED services, which I think is some of those that keep kind of recurring.
So Mr. Farrell's company is on here. So the Board of Education has not agreed to that amount with Mr. Farrell's amount that's on here. So.
Right, and I don't think this is an approval of a contract of that amount, but we're trying to meet that policy, DJ, where it's saying for a particular vendor, we have to have board approval over a certain dollar amount, and these vendors are reoccurring, and so we're bringing them here on the list. So if there were some which the board did not want to approve, then maybe we would need to look at a way where we're pulling those off of here individually.
No, I'm not saying that it's not what the board doesn't want to approve the company. I'm saying the amount of Mr. Farrell's company on here. I'm saying maybe the board saying if we negotiated lower.
But these are projected
Right.
for the future. It could meet that amount and it might be less. So they're saying that we're projecting that Mr. Farrington's could be $275,000, but it might be much less than that, so we don't know.
Right, but I'm saying, how is it that somebody can assume what we as a board are determining that amount to be? We might say that amount could be 200,000 at the beginning of the school year, and it could be 200, and we might not even spend 47,000. So then they gonna end up paying them 240, the other 47,000.
I think what they're saying is they compare it to the last year's amount that possibly was spent. So that, it's kind of like what was I thinking of the other day? When we do a projection even on student count, we just compare it to 3 or 4 years back to see how many students we had 4 years ago, how many students we had 3 years ago, and that's how they're doing this. It's the same way.
Okay,
Madam
thank you, Madam Chair, for explaining it.
Go ahead,
to
Mr.
me.
Farrell.
Well, maybe I can clarify a little bit, and since you brought up our firm, which is listed on there, I'll just say for the record, I hadn't seen that amount, and I certainly didn't agree to it. It's not my company. I work for a partnership. And so I assume that amount was set based on the legal work that was done last year. But, our arrangement with the district, as you know, is not for a set amount.
Right.
Charged by the hour, and it just depends on how much work you ask us to do. It's an ongoing relationship. I suspect that many of the vendors on this list are similar in that they have an ongoing relationship for a particular service for the district. And, the amounts of that are not necessarily known specifically, and so there's estimates made. Some of the contracts, some of these vendors I recognize from work in the last, year plus of 2 years of agreements that I can remember seeing here and there. But once, as Mr. Storr said, generally speaking, once the agreement has been approved by the board, and if the relationship is ongoing and there's no changes, legal changes to the wording, it's not unusual for me not to see it again.
Thank you. Deborah, roll call, please.
Ms. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mrs. Quintana?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
No,
Moving on to 1.6, Resolution 19-007, Appropriation Resolution. I have a motion.
Madam Chair, I move for the approval of resolution number 19-007.
May I have a second?
Second?
Discussion? Go ahead, Mr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just real quick, on both Resolution 7 and 8, we've already discussed this in study session, Mr. Storrs, but obviously the real risk here is that we are spending into unallocated fund balance over the next couple of years, and we'll just have to watch that to make sure that we don't overexpend or that we don't draw down too quickly, I guess, on those reserves. The real risk here, which I know MGT knows and will be working on, is declining enrollment. Because if we continue to decline enrollment, that means less revenue. We'll really be in a bad situation then. So just want to make sure that that's known, that that's an area of risk that we know about and that we will be working to address.
Yeah, that definitely is an area we're aware of and working on. Yeah, that's a good point.
I had a quick question. I don't know if you could answer it. I don't know if I remember correctly, but I know in, I don't know if it was a previous meeting or 2 meetings ago, we talked about how you had to transfer funds. I don't remember if it was from the general fund to one of the department's funds, because if you didn't, they would have been negative. I think it might have been for operations.
Yes.
When that happens, are you required to notify us, or is that just something you can do on your own, or?
Yeah, I'm not aware of a requirement to notify there of just a transfer between budgets within the general fund. If it is a transfer between funds, then I think that has to be approved by the board.
Thank you.
Roll call, Monica?
Ms. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mrs. Quintana?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
No.
Moving on to 1.7, Resolution 19-008, authorizing the use of a portion of the beginning fund balance as authorized by the Colorado State statutes. May I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move for the approval of resolution number 19-008.
May I have a second?
Second for the approval of Resolution 1908.
Discussion?
I had a question. I don't know if you can answer. In lodging, $1,200 per person for 3 days, what does that in? Oh, that's next one.
No? Okay. Deborah, roll call?
Ms. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mrs. Quintana?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Moving on to 1.8, Superintendent's recommendation, approval for Adams City High School staff to travel overnight to attend CASE in Breckenridge, Colorado. May I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move for the approval of item 1.8.
Second, please.
Madam Chair, I second item 1.8.
Discussion?
Okay, sorry, it was this one then. For the lodging, for $1,200 per person, can you kind of break down how that rolls down for 3 days, 4 days?
So when Denise prepared that, it was again following the same protocol that Deborah Montoya was using for the 3 days, the cost of the conference to stay up in Breckenridge. So that, and the housing for the 3 days hotel. Is that what you're referring to?
So the lodging includes food already and meals?
Everything, yes. All right, thank you.
Roll call, Deborah?
Ms. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mrs. Quintana?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
Moving on to 1.9, Superintendent's recommendation, intent to participate in the coordinated election of November 5th, 2019. May I have a motion?
Madam Chair, I move for the approval of item 1.9.
May I have a second?
Madam Chair, I second item 1.9.
Discussion? Seeing none, Deborah, roll call, please.
Ms. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Moreno?
Aye.
Mrs. Quintana?
Aye.
Mr. Rolla?
Aye.
Mr. Thomas?
Aye.
That's the end of our agenda, and so we're on communications. Ms. Martinez, do you have anything to say? If not, that's okay.
Just that I would encourage all of us as a district to make a presence in the following neighborhood outreach so that the community gets to know us as district members and also so we can start forming those relationships that we really want to form.
When is it?
It's August, is it August?
The 5th? 8th? August 8th.
Oh, wait, no.
August 8th.
Oh,
Hold on. I don't think that's it. Let me find it.
isn't it?
Yes, it is, yeah.
And that starts at 6, right?
It's from 6 to 8, a
Yeah,
Pioneer Park.
At the Pioneer.
Right, but I think it would be a great opportunity for us.
And normally, I think the district puts up booths up there. So that's y'all. Yes. And do you put one up, Al? Al's giving me that reluctant yes. Salute. Okay. Senator? Mr. Rolla?
A couple things. First of all, I just would like to say that I've talked to Al already about the irrigation going on in our district because I like to attend a lot of the Little League baseball games over here to watch the game. Of course, you have hot dogs. And I'm being approached by parents saying, what is going on with the irrigation of the grass at many of our schools, and I tried to explain some of the things where pipes were broken, clocks were messed up, and so forth, but we could only keep giving that excuse for so long. I hope that Mr. Francisco goes and he finds if we have to start replacing, then we better start replacing, because we can't continue to do and get those irrigation systems fixed up. Number two, just like to thank Dominic for being my partner in, the
Quality Community Foundation.
golf tournament, because we took second place. We got beat by one stroke, but we took second, and we won $200 of prizes at a pro shop at Buffalo Run. And I'll be we will be turning over that certificate to the high school for the golf program, so maybe they can help them buy golf balls or maybe a putter or something. They can help, so we'll turn that up. And then we have one more tournament, which hopefully we've done well in the past, and hopefully we can do to give our golf team some extra money to buy some certain things. And lastly, I would like to wish you all a happy July, because we don't meet in July, and I hope you take advantage of it and go to where you want to go and have a good time.
Just real quick, I just want to make sure that it's known that the congratulations really go to Mr. Rolla. I did nothing to help with that second place finish.
He made a couple putts.
Mr. Thomas?
Tomorrow's the adult graduation at the high school. I think it's 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock.
5 o'clock?
Is it 6?
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
Yeah, so I look forward to seeing a lot of people there tomorrow and wish those individuals congratulations, because we know it's hard for those individuals to make it through to certain circumstances they face, so they do need our support. So I look forward to being there tomorrow night, and thank everybody.
Thank everybody for coming out. This was our last one, unless we have special ones coming up. So everybody enjoy I know you all have to work, but y'all do have 4 days, right? Are we still doing 4 days? Okay. So enjoy your summer, your 4-day off, and be ready for us to come back and give you all a hard time. Be ready. Thank you.
Nope, we're done.
You know what?
Yep.
I didn't get this.
For what?
Surprising.